And now, the international Vienna for everyone. And now, the international Vienna for everyone.
Pretty comfortable seats, actually.
Yeah.
Cheers, man. Thanks.
Cheers.
Good shit.
This is okay.
Might have some squeakiness on the chairs, but it's okay. Unless you know
That's fine.
It's real. It's authentic. So long as I've extended this mic. All right, cool.
When did you start this place, the one that you have right here? 2019, you said, right?
Yeah, we opened Soon Studio. We finished renovating it at the end of 2019. And then we had our first exhibition in October. It was actually. So, yeah, in October 2019, we had our first exhibition. It was a Halloween exhibition. Super fun. And then we plan to do an exhibition every 2 months after that.
And then, you've been doing it every 2 months?
No, we planned to.
Oh.
And then Corona came right after.
Fuck.
Yeah. So we kind of shift gears. This room that we're sitting here now, this was actually we made a shop in here. So it has an extra door, a separate door, and we had a shop where we were selling stuff from local artists. So it was like a co-signment shop. So artists would come, bring prints, shirts, magazines, stickers, whatever they want, and we had it all set up for them here. And people would just come and buy stuff, and we would just get a small percentage, and the artists could sell stuff without having to be here. So,
and how did that work out?
It worked out good, but it was only open for a few months.
Yeah,
and then the pandemic came, and shortly towards the end of 2020, I decided, okay, it doesn't make any sense because we had no idea how long it was going to be.
Yeah.
So we closed the shop. I gave all the stuff back to the artist. And I just made this our working space and started recording the podcast out of here. And
so you're one of those who started a podcast during the pandemic?
Yeah, basically that's what happened. I was listening to a shitload of podcasts. Yeah. Can I cuss on this? It's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I was listening to a lot of podcasts and drawing while I was painting and drawing. And I kind of got into my head, was like, it'd be really cool to get more into the art scene now, because right now there's no exhibitions, there's no gathering. So maybe I can just meet up with artists one-on-one, and we sit and we have a beer and we talk for however we want to. And it helped me out a lot at that time, because I didn't have any, I came from the States here. I moved here about 9 years ago. And at that time,
9 years ago,
yeah. And when I moved here, I didn't really have that many friends. I only knew one person here that was in the art scene. But besides that, it was always hard for me to get into the art scene, because not being from here, it's hard to break in,
Also because of the language.
Yeah. And a lot of people who are here in the art scene, they're at least have some kind of connection. Most of them are Austrian. If they're not all from Vienna, they come from towns nearby Vienna. So there's a connection there. A lot of them went to art school together. So it was hard for me to kind of get into that
But how did you do this transition? Because you didn't know anyone. Now I suppose you know a lot of people in the art scene, right?
Yeah, I moved here just knowing one artist. And he had a gallery here. And so when I moved here specifically because he was here. And I knew if I wanted to pursue art, I need to have an in. And it's good to have somebody that's already in the scene in Europe. So I moved here and I was helping at his gallery. And from that, I started to meet other artists, and I started to make a lot of friends outside of the art scene more, because the art scene, it's weird when you first pop in, everybody's like, who the hell is this guy? And, I don't know. It was kind of strange in the beginning, but I found my way, since then, and started to make my own stuff happen. And,
Well, 9 years later, was it a good decision to move here?
Yeah, definitely. I don't have any regrets about moving here. I still miss, back home Texas. Quite a bit. Yeah, I miss Texas.
Well, I would say that it's, for as much as I know Texas, I've never been there, but what I heard about it, it's pretty much like Austria. Especially if you go outside Vienna, it's a lot like Texas.
Yeah, once you leave outside of Vienna, it is very countryside, and also the mentality of the people in the countryside is about the same as countryside in Texas. It's only normal because everybody, when you live in a small city or in a big city, everybody has, it's more of a liberal idea because you're living with so many different people, you're kind of used to seeing different cultures. but outside the city, you don't get to see that much. So of course you're gonna have a more narrow mindset, or more of a, I don't want to, not that it's a bad thing, but I'm just saying you don't have the exposure that the people in the city have.
Yeah.
So of course you're going to be a little bit more conservative, a little bit more holding on to what you have. Like you don't want that little town to change. I understand that.
Yeah.
But I think that's the same.
What is your main thing? Street artist, or how do you call it?
Yeah, street art is.
Which is you?
I think illustration is my main thing. I like to do a lot of illustrating. I like to create characters and draw characters, and I translate that very well onto walls. It's my favorite thing. Is like street art for me it's art in a way that's more fun for me to do, because I can do a huge painting in a few hours and I'm done and it's there, and now everybody can see it. Even if they don't want to see it, it's there. And I just love that. I just love that aspect of it.
I followed your Instagram page where you post your mainly your street art, and I was fascinated by the way. It's incredible how you do it. It's like it's printed.
Yeah, thanks.
It's great. Well, how does it work out? How does it work here in Austria in general?
Well,
technically, is it illegal, or people hire you to do that, or you just get a permission to do it for free?
That's all of the above, kind of.
Okay.
Vienna is actually pretty unique in the fact that in Vienna you have the biggest area of legal walls that you can paint in all of Europe. This is from what I've been told. In all of Europe, maybe all over the world, I don't know. In such a small area, almost every district in Vienna has at least one wall that you can paint legally.
But who goes there first? Who can do that?
It doesn't matter if you're first or last, because they're legal walls. So you can paint over it every day. You can paint over it every hour.
You don't have to ask anyone.
No. They're legal.
There, someone goes and covers it with another painting.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what those walls are there for. Yeah, they're there to paint.
But that sucks. You do a great work there. You work for hours and hours. Someone comes tomorrow, does another thing.
Yeah, I can see that. But think of it this way: like if you want to play basketball, right? You have to go to the basketball court and play and practice and get really good at 3-pointers and all that stuff. You don't have a crowd around you. Nobody's paying you to do that. You're doing it because you want to get better, and that's what these walls are for. They're for people who want to get better at painting walls. So of course, there's only so many walls that you can paint. So you have to paint over other people's stuff. So people who paint there, the artists who paint there, they know that these are just for practice. These are for fun. These are not. You can do something really cool, and it could be gone tomorrow, but at least you got it out. You take a photo and it lasts forever. It's totally fine. But that's what these walls are for. They're for practice. Yeah.
What is the biggest wall you've painted on? Or, in general, not only in Austria.
Yeah, I've painted some pretty high walls. I think the highest one, it's probably around 10 to 12 meters high. Not super high, but pretty high. And the longest one was 32 meters long and 4 meters high. And that was like one that I did in 2018 or 2017. I can't remember. Outside of Vienna. And I forgot the name of it.
Is it still there?
Yeah, I believe so. I haven't been back since. But it was part of a Spielplatz where they were... where kids would play soccer. You could play basketball there. And they had this long wall. It was just a 4 foot or a little bit higher wall. It was just gray, and they wanted to have a nice mural there, so they hired me. Actually, I had to send them a sketch, and I was competing against a couple of other artists who were trying to get that wall because it was a paid job.
Yeah,
and I somehow got it, and it was probably the biggest wall I've done, and I think the biggest one I've done since. And besides that, I really enjoy big walls. I haven't done anything super big. I always wanted to do like a really, really big, 30-meter wall or something like that. But the older I get, the more I'm like, I'm cool with like 10 meters is fine. 6 meters, totally cool. But yeah.
But what is it with, for example, for novelists, is that they would love to live as novelists just by selling books, but they can afford to do that, so they go and write screenplays, for example. What is it with you? Is it your novels, these walls? That's what you'd like to be paid for the rest of the life and support yourself?
It was before I started comedy. So before I started comedy, that my main goal was to pretty much paint until I die, and make a living with that, which can be kind of stressful, because it's weird as an artist. Because as an artist, you're only as successful as how much art you sell, right? It doesn't matter how much people like your art, or how many followers you have, or how many people, if they can't afford to buy it, then you're not successful. And I realized that later on when I started to do art as a career, and that fucking sucks, that's not fun to do. So now art is like, it's my job. I love to do it. I'm not so precious with it. I will do big walls, I'll do small walls, I do little paintings here and there. But since I started doing comedy
9 months ago, right?
Yeah, roughly.
Pretty much.
Yeah, February. Yeah, in February I started. Since I started that, I realized that there's so many different ways I have to express myself, to creative wise, and so I have different ways to make money with that. So it doesn't have to just be art. It could also be doing a few gigs, comedy gigs, or I'm also hosting pub quizzes, and any little thing that comes my way. I have such a bigger, a little bit bigger pool to pull from, So now it's not just like, I have to be successful as an artist. I have to make it as an artist. I have to get good with this gallery.
Well, as an artist, all includes art. So you're still fine. You are doing it as an artist, maybe not as a painter only, and then as a comedian as well, and then as a moderator for different events.
You're correct. Yeah.
What was the thing that sparked the comedy attention? What was the first time you tried and you went on stage?
The first time I tried it was in February. It was at the first Wednesday in February, I remember. And what sparked it was I was painting a lot. I was doing a lot of, digital illustrations and stuff. And while I paint, usually I'll have a podcast in the background. And I like to watch a lot of comedy podcasts, And I started watching this podcast where a lot of comedians go up and they do like 1 minute of comedy. And then, they pull their name from a hat and they do 1 minute. And I thought it was so funny. It was so cool to watch. And I've always wanted to do comedy since I was a kid. I remember as young as like 6 or 7 years old, I just loved making my family laugh. It was just something that it brought me so much joy to see other people laugh, And I remember we had this one assignment in school where we had to draw what we wanted to be when we got older. The kids are drawing like firemen or astronauts, policemen. And I drew a comedian. I remember drawing the comedian with a little mic, like a little stand-up comedian. I wasn't even watching comedy at the time. I just loved making people laugh, Yeah.
People were like, why does he want to be an astronaut? He's in Houston, Texas. There's NASA here. Everyone wants to be an astronaut.
Exactly.
What is wrong with this guy?
I don't know what was wrong with me. But that was something I always had in the back of my mind that I always wanted to do. And it would always come up every once in a while. Like, I have a lot of friends in Texas that are hilarious. And I would be like, dude, we should go do an open mic. But like in my head, I'd never been to an open mic. I didn't even know what it entailed. I was kind of scared to do it. And yeah, this year, because of drawing and watching the podcast, I decided to just look up an English open mic, and just to go check it out, just to see what was happening.
Which one was it?
It was the one at Mi Barrio, the Vienna Comedy Club. Yeah. And so I found that one online. I asked my wife and 2 friends if they wanted to come. It was a free show. Let's go check it out. And we went, we watched it. I didn't tell any of them that I was wanting to do that. But after the show, I was like, there wasn't that many people there. It was like 8 people at the show, right? And that was with us. It was us and like 4 other people, maybe 2 other, I don't remember. And the rest were just comedians in the back. And then I just, after the show, that's when I told my wife, I was like, I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to go up on stage and do it. And she was supportive. She was like, yeah, you should do it. Just write something, just go. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do it. It's only 5 minutes of my life. If I suck, Nobody's gonna remember me. I'll just walk off. I'm gonna suck.
Yeah.
That's the first thing in my brain. I was like, I'm gonna suck, but if I don't feel anything from it, then I can just stop, So I signed up for the following week. I went. 60 people in the audience.
60 people.
It was huge. It was packed. There was standing room only. It was insane. And I went up for my first time. Of course, I sucked. Whatever. I did really bad.
Did you get any laugh?
Yeah, I got some chuckles. I don't know if it was just because I don't even remember where I got the laughs or how it was. My wife was there. She supported me. She was really excited. And then after that, I got hooked. And I signed up for the next week. I talked to some of the other comedians, and they were super nice. And they were like, "Hey, there's one on Monday. There's one on Tuesday. You can do it on Friday, Saturday." And I was like, "Okay, great." So I connected really kind of instantly to these comedians because we're all sharing this kind of experience together as like artists, and also we're not from Vienna. I think we all have this kind of like. I don't know, this common thing between us that we're
going way.
Yeah, we're also
not hesitating to be friends.
Exactly, and don't take yourself too seriously. Yeah. It was like kind of an instant connection that I had with the comedians, and I just got hooked, and I just started going like every week, like 4 times a week, and just started getting better and better, working on my stuff and trying new stuff. And really practice. Like I would sit in my studio and instead of drawing, I just found myself just working on bits, dreaming, sleeping before going to bed, thinking about a bit, writing it down, and then going and checking it out. And it just became such an obsession for me. And it took me a while to balance that out with my art, honestly. But
and to start paying my bills again.
Yeah.
Reflect that, oh shit, I still have to do this job.
Yeah, it was that was difficult in the beginning because when you're doing open mics so often, my mind is already switched to comedy the whole time. But if I have to take breaks, I have to stop. Yeah. I do half week comedy, half week art in a way. That's how I kind of split it up. Because that's the only way I could do it in my brain.
How many times do you test a piece or an act or jokes?
Depends.
Before you decide you're gonna keep it or you're gonna.
It depends.
It away.
It depends on the bit because there's some that I'll do them once, and I feel like maybe there was something there. I just need to reword something or add something to it, and I'll try it again. And if it's not getting anywhere, then I'll stop. I'll just put it away. I'll just put it to the side.
What if it's something that you really think it's funny, no one is laughing, but you still wait for the right? You think no, that's not the right audience. I'm still gonna keep doing it because the joke is so funny because you believe it's funny. You have those moments or jokes?
No, because I think
it's primarily just for the audience. If the audience laughed, then it works. If it don't, it doesn't work.
It's for the audience. For me, it's like if the premise is good. And the joke isn't landing and nobody's laughing, then I'm not setting it up correctly. And so the premise is good, then maybe I'll keep the premise and use it for something else, which I've done before. But then there's jokes that are just not funny. I do have some jokes that I think are hilarious, that are funny, but they might be a little bit too, it really depends on the crowd because I have like, for example, fat jokes, not on the specific, not on general, like I don't like fat people, but more about I had this bit about my ex-wife and how she was fat. I mean, she wasn't, but she's my ex-wife, so I can say whatever I want now. And I had this whole thing about like how I missed her but the whole thing was kind of set up in a way that like I loved fat women, and to kind of even out the joke a little bit. I don't want to fat shame anybody. But whenever I hear fat jokes, for me it's funny when it's done cleverly. When it's not in a mean way, but it's clever. And I was working on that, but then I kind of found myself excluding some people in the audience, and I put that joke away because I didn't want to offend anybody. I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable, even though I tried my best to separate those jokes from anybody else that would be in the audience who might be offended, and to kind of make it specific to one person, and not make it in a way that like I wasn't saying it in a mean way. I was saying it in a loving way to this fat ex-wife that I kind of made up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stuff like that, I just kind of put to the side because I didn't want to offend anyone.
But it's also a matter, depends on the audience. For example, when you're doing open mics, that it's going to be 10 comedians who's going to do their pieces. It's important to be a bit comforting to the audience and not offend anyone, because they're there to see a comedy show. They are not there to see your show. So they're not coming for your characters or for your jokes, and they can accept every kind of joke because they know you. So it's for everybody. It's more general way of doing jokes properly without offending. If then you do your own show and the audience that knows you comes and they know what to expect from you, to do the fat people joke and all that, then it's fine. You can
you can do what you want.
For those shows. By the way, do you plan any one man show?
No, it's too early. I've just started, so I think it's gonna be. I think it's kind of. I don't know. It's too early for that for me. Yeah, it's way too early. I'm going in a good direction. Like I feel like it's going really well for me, and I have good bits that I'm working that I feel like that are hitting all the time. But to do a one man show, this is a lot of pressure, and it's a lot of. You have to have a good solid hour. I don't have anywhere close. I maybe have 15, 20 minutes if I'm talking slowly, you know? So that's something I'm building towards, but I'm not planning to do that anytime soon. It would be a couple years in maybe before I can say, okay, I'm going to do a show now. Also, it's about building the audience, right? Because I can say I'm good enough, I'm going to do a one-man show, but if nobody's in the crowd, if they don't know who the hell I am, it doesn't matter. So it's a lot of, this time is about building up the jokes, getting the jokes perfect to where I don't even have to think about it anymore, which is what I realize with comedy. It's about getting your bits. I want my bits to be so solid that I can do it in my sleep, you know? I don't want to sit there and rehearse every line again, you know? But not that it's robotic, but more of the premise and all the tags, they're there. I have them. It doesn't matter. And that's going to take a while, you know.
How much do you write of? What do you say? All of it, or just notes, and then you know the topic, and then you know what you're going to say, and then you just develop 50% of it on the spot?
No, I write it all out. I write it first. I start with the premise, and I'll think about it, and how am I going to start it, and what's going to be the punchline of it. You know, how am I going to set it up? How am I going to end it? And then I'll work. Then I'll just keep refining it, and I work on it, think about it, and I write the whole story out, the whole bit, how I want it to be, and then I think of the parts in the bit that is not funny. You know, it's just me explaining the bit, setting up the bit, and then I try to find the parts in that setup that I can still get a laugh. So I try to find the jokes, to put jokes inside of the setup before the main punchline, in a way. So the joke is I compare it a lot to painting. You know, I have the canvas, and I'll sketch it out. I have the whole sketch, and the sketch is just a rough sketch on the canvas, and I'll start to put the colors in. But what I don't realize till later, this color, actually I need to even out these colors on this side because there's too much red on the left. I need to put a little blue here, and then that way that's not too much red and it's not too boring on this side. So it's really just making a painting for me. So each bit for me, it's like finishing this finished painting, and then I go on stage, I'm like, here's the painting, here it is, look at it. Do you like it?
What I liked about you, was it on Wednesday when I stopped by the comedy pub that you were there? I think
Thursday, yeah,
day off or something.
Yeah,
there's a national day and national day. It was smooth, your entrance and your topics, you entered smoothly. You didn't say, now I'm going to tell you a joke. It wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Also, they were realistic. The other comedians, for example, they did a lot of unrealistic jokes, which is, for me, I mean, it's different for everyone, but for me, it's something that as an audience, I don't like to accept for a single reason, because you're there as Tito, or you're there as this guy, and I know that this never happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it. I'm not saying to tell the truth. You can tell a lie, but it has to be a realistic lie.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But if you say that you went to the moon, no one's gonna buy that, and it's not gonna be funny, because we are seeing that's why stand-up comedy is different from a comedy movie.
Yeah.
Because in comedy movie you can be that guy because you're a character. But there you're you. So it's then, especially when they say it right in the beginning, then you lost me right there. I'm not gonna follow you anymore. I'm just gonna be, because I'm waiting for the next guy to come on. I have to listen to you now. I'll go out and have a smoke until you're done. And that's what I think. It's a great start from your side, that you're keeping it real. You talked about the dog. You talked about Texas. So those are your stories. You do have a dog. You are from Texas. That's the truth.
I find it for my bits, it's a lot easier for me to start with the idea of a bit from my own personal experience, because then it's so unique. I think a lot of comedians will tell you that, like, personal experiences, only you can tell that joke, because you lived it. Only you lived it. But that's what I love about comedy and also art, is that there's so many different styles to choose from. So say if somebody doesn't like the realistic, like, kind of relatable stuff, maybe they want to like more outrageous or some made up stuff, then that's also there. So I think it's the same with going back.
I don't know if they like it in stand-up comedy. Take all famous and great stand-up comedians, none of them does it, which means that at some points they might have tried it, but they changed it. Because again, if I go there, I have to believe you, because I'm coming to your show, which is on your name. You're not performing on a play. So it seems like they rarely do it anymore. The big guys.
I think it's the big guys. The ones that are more successful, they are coming from like a more of a personal aspect. But not all of them. I mean, do you know Eric Andre?
No.
So he has this. He does more of outrageous kind of comedy. It's very, that's a lot of like shocking the audience, like from just like things coming out from the side. There'll be a bear on stage. Like he'll be naked 1 second. He's throwing stuff. He's talking about like how he's I don't know, like he's still a baby, and he plays the kind of he is himself, but he's also a character in the same time. And people go for that kind of performance because you don't know what to expect. It's not anything relatable at all, but it's so hilarious how outrageous it is. And I think there is definitely an audience for that. I also like did you ever watch Tim and Eric? Awesome show. This is a show on Adult Swim, which is the Cartoon Network. I think it was Comedy Central, or it was the Cartoon Network, Adult Swim. And they had a show, and the show was just like outrageous stuff. And when the guy Tim Heidecker, when he goes on tour by himself, he plays two people. He has him that's like really sarcastic, kind of like Andrew Dice Clay, and then he has another one that's very uptight. So like you realize that you're going to see these characters and not like something realistic. So I think there's an audience for that, but everybody has their taste.
There's definitely an audience, but I was just saying that I don't think it's very common that later on they keep holding strong on that being a character while you're doing a stand.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, Andrew Dice Clay was a character of himself. Like Roger Dangerfield, I don't know if you've heard him.
No.
He's like a classic. He died a long time ago, but he was just a one-line comedian, all about his wife and stuff. I guess it was more relatable, but like he played this character, of himself. It was like how.
But that's also what Andy Kaufman did. I don't know if
Andy Kaufman was also, of course.
But he was. The thing is that Andy Kaufman was a character the whole time. So he went on stage. He was a character until the end. Sometimes he was, sometimes he wasn't, and at least that's what they show in the movie with Jim Carrey. That he was also a character in real life, without being on stage. The guy was weird. weird as shit.
Yeah.
No one. He said he got cancer before he died, and no one believed him because he was a character the whole time.
Yeah.
By the way, best Elvis impression by far.
Oh yeah, it was really great.
Yeah,
really great.
And that's a different case because in itself he was a character, but what we saw from him as a character was real within the character. He wasn't changing from stand up to stand up or within the show being two different characters or more.
That's true. Yeah.
You're partially Cuban, right? Your father is Cuban, your mom is from Puerto Rico.
Exactly, yeah.
Have you ever been to Cuba?
Never been to Cuba, no.
Why?
It's not easy to go to Cuba from the U.S.
You can go from Europe.
From Europe, yeah, but I haven't gone since I moved here. And even then with the American passport, I had to see how that works out. But I haven't looked because it was never a possibility for 30 years of my life living in the U.S. There was no way for me to go to Cuba. So, and I don't have a family there. I don't have any connections there. So,
where are you from in Cuba? I mean, your father, where?
Where he was born, I'm not exactly sure where in Cuba exactly where he was born. Actually, it's a good question. I don't know. I would ask him, but he
lived in the U.S.
He lived in the U.S. He passed away in 2019, 4 years ago. Yeah. Just a little over 4 years ago, yeah.
I was in Cuba in September.
Really? How'd you like it?
That's why I'm asking you.
How'd you like it?
I have very complex feelings about it.
Okay.
Because talking about nature and landscape and countryside, it was fucking paradise. I remember these books from different religions that they paint what paradise looks like.
Yeah.
And that was Cuba. Before visiting Cuba, I thought they were just fantasy.
Yeah.
But then when I went there, I went to the Vinales, the countryside where they grow the tobacco and the coffee. That was unreal.
Yeah.
So I was there, and the grass was green and was not just green, but was like a carpet. Like it looked fake.
Yeah,
That's how real it was. You couldn't believe that it was real. And then there's these animals just passing by naturally, not being aggressive, all sorts of animals. And that's unreal. The level of humidity is very high there. That's why probably the best tobacco grows there. And it's summer all the time. But then when you meet people, you think that the country is even greater than that because people are great in Cuba. I only met great people, positive people who, no matter how much they were struggling, they were still smiling and they were still hoping that one day they would get out of the country. And this is where the sad part comes in, because no one wanted to stay there anymore. That's an island, and its premise is that it looks like if nothing changes, it's going to be a desert island soon.
Yeah.
They think that things are going to change because Raul is not the official president. I mean, can you talk freely about Cuba?
Yeah, of course.
Because over there they don't talk freely about Cuba.
No, but I'm not Cuban, so I mean, I'm American, so I get to say what I'm free. I'm free.
So Raul is 94. Raul Castro, and he's not officially president anymore, but everyone there said that he's still running things backstage. And they're all hoping that when he dies, and they hope that he's soon, that things will change.
Okay.
The change they expect or they hope is that America comes in again and makes things better, because they remember that it's a bit weird because they still remember Batista times, the president before Fidel. Sorry. And they say that, yes, it was hard and that it has its own good things, its own bad things. It was, for example, before Fidel, you couldn't go to the hospital. Going to the hospitals was a privilege, not for everyone. But when Fidel came, everyone could go to public hospitals and get, they were all in public hospitals, but you could go to the hospital. Then they all learned how to read and write during Fidel times. But on the other hand, they started to starve. And they weren't allowed to leave anymore. I met a guy who was a bartender in a bar, and he said that he was living with his mom. We were in Varadero by the beach, and he was living with his mother, who was a teacher.
Okay.
And his mother was making approximately $30 per month. That's what her salary was.
Mm-hmm.
And even though things are cheap in Cuba, that was a very, very low salary, even for the standard of Cuba.
Mm-hmm. That's what I make with stand-up, basically. That's
In a night.
Yeah.
In five minutes.
That's in 1 month. If I'm lucky.
Yeah. And he said, my only dream is to leave the country. And that's why I'm working in his bar.
Mm-hmm.
He quit his studies for the moment because he wanted to save money and leave. And I said, how do you leave the country?
Mm-hmm.
Because they would only talk freely with tourists, not among each other. Otherwise, a lot of spies, a lot of people who report to the government.
Get in trouble, yeah.
Yeah. And he said, if you go in a protest here, you're immediately in jail for at least 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he said the only way Cubans can leave the country is if they go to Nicaragua, then from Nicaragua, because they can travel without a visa to Nicaragua. And they go to Mexico, then from Mexico they cross the border, and they go to the US.
Mm-hmm.
Or they go to Russia because they can travel visa-free to Russia. But then what the fuck are you going to do in Russia? You have to go somewhere else in Europe at least.
Yeah.
And they said that costs at least €1,000, and no Cuban ever saves €1,000 ever in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And that was very, 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 very sad.
I'd really like to go to Cuba to see it. I was just in Puerto Rico this summer. Mm-hmm. I went with my mother and my sister and my wife, and it was my first time being in Puerto Rico since I was maybe 6 or 7, and it was just such a beautiful place. Even, I don't know, the people were super nice, the food was great, obviously, but it was just something about the island that you felt like everybody was there together. Everybody kind of respected each other because they'd gone through so much as an island, with the hurricanes, and you have also, the power outages and everything, and they're there to support each other. It just felt like such a great place. And I got really into the history of Puerto Rico and went to some of the museums, and it really inspired my art, and I just got such a recharge being there. And my next vacation, I really would like to go to Cuba, because I really want to see where my grandfather came from.
I would really recommend you that, and I would really recommend you do that before things change, so you see what's going on now. They were very, very, very depressed because of the pandemic, because they lost all the tourists, and Cuba only relies on tourists.
Yeah.
They lost all their shares in sugar, because earlier, back until the 60s, before Fidel came in, they were selling massive amounts of sugar worldwide. They were the number one exporters of sugar. And now they only rely on tourists. They don't even rely on cigars anymore. They sell their cigars, but that's not enough for them. And people don't get anything. You go to the cigar shop, you can only pay by card, because they don't want to leave any money in the hands of people. You can only pay with card.
Yeah.
It came to a point that I was starting feeling sorry that I was going to a restaurant and eating, because where else are you going to eat as a tourist?
Yeah.
And you can stay at home and cook, but it's difficult in Cuba because there are no supermarkets. There's no such thing as
you can
just go there and grab something.
They have like an allocated amount of food that they get all the time.
Yeah, so they get these tarjetas that they call them, and they go. I even filmed it there. One day, it was the Wednesday morning. We go out. We were in Havana Vieja, old town. We see like 50 people waiting in front of a small door. And I asked them, what are you waiting on? They said, we're waiting for the tarjeta de detergente, so the washing liquid for the clothes. So they would get the tarjeta there, wait 50 people in line to get the tarjeta, then go somewhere else, wait again in line to actually get the detergent. Not just that. And that's 2023.
Okay.
And they were very sad about it. Some of them were angry. They didn't care that I was filming them. They were just talking. They were so fed up with it. And I feel very sorry about it, that they couldn't afford that. And I was going in a restaurant, even though it was cheap to go in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Very, very, very cheap. We were eating seafood. We were eating lobster at a price that costs less than a doner in Berlin doner here in Vienna.
Yeah, wow.
Its prices are ridiculously low, which is bad for them.
Yeah,
Very bad for them. And the facilities are so bad. So I literally took toilet paper with me from Vienna.
Really?
There's nothing there. There's nothing. You go to the supermarket, to a bar or restaurant, you check the menu. You only eat what there is, not what you want.
Yeah.
We asked for a bottle of water. They said we don't have bottles of water. Nothing.
Wow.
It was terrible.
And that was in a touristy area, or is it
tourist here in Varadero, where it's mainly tourists?
Wow, crazy.
Yeah. And that we met this taxi driver. He was taking us to the airport. He was around 65 years old, and his story was also tragic because I was talking to him. I speak a little Spanish enough to, and that's also what I liked about the Cuban people, because they don't care how much Spanish you speak as long as they can understand you. It's fine, and you're gonna have fun with them.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that his son left Cuba 12 years ago to go to Spain. And he has a daughter there. He's married. He showed me a picture of his 4-year-old niece, and he said, "I never met her, only through video calls, because they can't come here. I can go there." 12 years he hasn't seen his son.
Yeah, that's really sad.
And I asked him. He told me that in 2004 he got a group of tourists from Italy coming to Cuba, and he drove them around because he was a driver. And then in 2005 they sent him an invitation to go to Italy and visit it, to get a visa and to pay for everything. And he went to Italy in 2005.
Yeah.
He said, "I went everywhere in Italy where you can imagine. They took me everywhere." And I asked him, "Did you like it?" And he just jumped from his seat, and he was extremely, "Did I like it? I loved it. I could go to the supermarket and choose what to eat." They said.
Yeah.
And I almost cried there.
Yeah.
When I said that.
Yeah, it's a life that you can't even really imagine.
Yeah.
And it makes sense why my grandfather, my grandmother decided to leave.
Yeah. And they were lucky they left on time. Now it's even harder to leave. To leave Cuba.
Well, they got really lucky because my grandfather was a baseball player, and he taught kids in Cuba how to play baseball. So he was working at this place called Miramar. The Miramar,
I know
a yacht club.
The Fifth Avenue of Cuba, of Havana.
It's a yacht club. It was a yacht club that they had, and they had kids there, and they had a program where they were teaching kids. But he started teaching kids baseball, and he started Little League. Do you know what Little League is? Little League baseball?
Little League?
Little League baseball is basically baseball for minors, like for kids. It's like before then, nobody was teaching the kids baseball, and he started teaching the kids baseball, and he started that in Cuba, and it became very popular, there, and he was able to. Because of that, some of the kids, they grew older, they became really good. And at that time, the baseball NBL in the U.S. were looking for baseball players from Cuba. And so they were picking these young, baseball players from Cuba and putting them in the major leagues in the U.S. And some of the people that he taught was taken to the U.S., to play baseball. And because he was the teacher of them, he was invited to go to New York to see the World Series where some of his kids were playing. And so he went and he took his wife, my grandmother, and his 3 sons, my father and my 2 uncles. Of course, they weren't able to take anything with them. They were only able to...
Because they were leaving for 3 days.
Yeah, they were only able to go and then come back. But my grandmother was a seamstress, right? So what she did was the kids were only able, my father and my uncles, they were only able to bring their baseball mitts, their gloves. So my grandmother opened up all the mitts and put all of the jewelry and all the money that they had inside of the mitts. And they went to the U.S. and just never came back. They stayed in New York for a little bit after the World Series. Then they moved to Puerto Rico. And that's where my father met my mother later. And he grew up in Puerto Rico, actually. My father, even though he's Cuban, he considered himself more Puerto Rican. Yeah. And I realized this later because meeting people in Puerto Rico who knew my father, and I didn't realize, of course, he was there. He went to college there. That's where he met my mother. When you grow up someplace, I wasn't I was born in Texas, but I didn't grow up in Texas. I moved back to Texas in '94, but before that I was living in Georgia. I was living in Louisiana, Hawaii, and I consider Texas my home, but only because I lived there in my, for most of my life.
Yeah.
But not my whole life. And I think it was the same with my father. He considers Puerto Rico his home more than Cuba, because he didn't witness Cuba like my grandfather did. He left Cuba when he was like 6 or 7 or something. So yeah, it's interesting.
A lot of people left the country like that. We went through this avenue, which I was telling you about. It's called Fifth Avenue of Havana, where all the mansions are, and big houses and villas, and where all the rich people used to stay. By the way, Raul Castro lives there as well. And we were looking at the houses and they were empty, but I'm talking about villas with 10 rooms and all that huge. And this guide was telling us, people just left, didn't even take the keys with them when the revolution came. They gave the keys to their servants at home, and they said, I'll be back in a week or two, because America won't allow this to happen.
Yeah.
So and they never came back. They just left everything, just like you were saying with your grandfather.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's insane, man.
And they even call it there. They have this sort of year counting on their own, which doesn't always go by 2023, but sometimes they count it with the years of revolution. For example, now it was the 65th year of revolution. That's how they count it.
Okay.
So they are still in revolution.
I see.
While people are struggling, Raul had a 2 kilometer square garden covered by a wall. Cubans Cubans had a joke about this. They say he goes hunting in his own garden. That's how big it was.
Damn.
But you should visit it, and you should visit it that it is still like this.
Yeah.
And it will resonate more how your grandfather grew up and how your father was born and a little bit raised there.
Yeah, I was in contact with somebody there recently because I was doing some research on my grandfather, because he was inducted into the Cuban Baseball Hall of Fame recently, like a few years ago. Because I was doing a lot of research on him, I got a lot of emails from people who he taught, and some of them are still in Cuba. And so there was recently somebody who wrote an article about Little League in Cuba, and they mentioned my grandfather. They had a photo of him and also an autograph of him there. And I reached out to him and asked him, if he had any more material, because these people, I don't know, they keep everything. I got so much newspaper clippings from the 50s, 60s of my 50s from my grandfather with these, and how they have these team photos where you see the kids there and they were just sending me all this stuff. And so I reached out to him, and he's like, he sent me some stuff, and he said, I have more stuff, I'll send it to you. And it took him a while to get back to me, because he said, the Wi-Fi here, it takes me a while to get back. And I was like, okay. But I would love to go meet with him and see what he knows and stuff and stuff like that.
You can travel as American. I think it's hard to travel directly from the U.S.
Yeah, but from here, my wife and I were talking about it, and we maybe go this summer or next time, but we'll see. I would like to do that for sure.
Yeah, I would also recommend just check it out. And before it changes, it goes back to the Batista times.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully not. But they had this thing also, because as I said, they a lot of things changed because of the pandemic, and then Trump became a bigger asshole, and he lifted, so he restricted all the cruise ships to stop in Havana. Basically not to stop in Havana, but he told them that if they stop in Havana or in Cuba, they couldn't enter the US anymore. And of course, who didn't want to enter the US just because of Havana? So now no cruise is entering Havana anymore. And it's a huge loss for not having packs of tourists onboarding the cruises almost every day.
Yeah.
And then they only have social media for the last 1 or 2 years. They weren't on social media 2 years ago. And now they're discovering a lot of things about the world and what goes on, because they didn't know anything. They didn't know about the cars, about the houses, about how people eat, how people dress, the world. It was complete darkness. Only people who left the country knew a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they were saying that even like a bit of meat or something, they only sell it on social media because it doesn't sell anywhere else. No one has it. It's just like,
okay.
I don't know. It's like finding one of those cameras that you have here and putting on social media. I have this camera for sale, and that's what they do with meat, with a bit of prosciutto and all this. With cheese, there was no cheese.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel sorry, man. It's such a beautiful country and so positive people.
Yeah, but it's something about that when you're on an island and you're all going through the same shit, you know. It's like, it's not like in Europe or even in Texas where it's like it's such a big place, and it's place people from everywhere. I think when you're kind of stuck in a location, especially an island, it really humbles you in a way that's like you're here together. You're not. I'm sure there's not too much. Everybody knows each other, and everybody's like there to help each other. I think that's a beautiful way to live, but it's kind of sad that they have to be in this kind of situation.
Before going there, I had dreamed to go to Cuba for, I don't know, at least 10 years. I wanted to go there, and I planned it once. Something happened, I didn't go. And it was also this fantasy from Hemingway that my dream was to retire in Cuba.
Okay.
Because Hemingway lived just outside Havana. He had a house there. I visited the house as well. It was a big house, and I said, all right, if with this big house, of course you can write well, because it's a big house in the park. But after this visit, if things don't change, it's hard to go and live there. Because here's the thing, even if you're rich, there are no things there. You can't buy things because there aren't.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Because I was thinking, okay, if I get the pension in Austria, you can live as a king in Cuba, but there's nothing.
Yeah. I remember my father told me that once, like, we'd be rich in Cuba. Yeah. In Cuba. I was like, wow, okay, cool. Yeah.
But how often do you go back to the US though?
About once a year. Yeah, I'm going back in December, see my family for Christmas. And I try to go back once a year. Yeah.
But Austin in Texas has become such a great city, an artistic city. Is it far from Houston? I'm not. No,
well, I'm actually from San Antonio, which is about an hour and a half from Austin. And so, even though I was born in Houston, I didn't spend a lot of time there. San Antonio was where I was kind of brought up. That's where I kind of found myself.
A lot of comedy as well in Austin.
In Austin, it's really blown up. But I think in Austin has always been a fucking cool place to go, man. I remember when I lived in San Antonio, all the good bands would go to Austin. They had the best bars. It was just such a cool happening place. You know, it was just such a cool city. San Antonio is cool, but it's also kind of sleepy in a way. It's like, it's cool because there's a good community there. There's a lot of shit happening, but it's not blown up like Austin has, you know. Austin has like big buildings. They have like a good downtown area, and San Antonio doesn't have a good downtown area. And like, they don't have big buildings. And I think mainly because San Antonio is known for the Alamo, which is like the last stand that the Texans had between the Mexicans, you know, it's like trying to keep Texas for the U.S. and that's what it's known for. And the Alamo is still there, and you're not able to build any buildings around it that will shadow the Alamo. It's against the law, I guess. So it really restricts the downtown area, and it's not a livable city at all. You can live outside of the city, the main city, but the main part, the center part, nobody lives there, you know? That's why it was such a culture shock moving to Vienna, where it's like, fuck, like everything is here. You don't even need a car. Like, you're in the city, you're living in the city.
It's possible to live in the city.
It's amazing. It's really amazing. Like, it took me a while to get used to it, but man, it It's more my speed, I guess you could say.
I met a journalist 2 days ago. He was from BBC, came to Vienna to do a cover of the Biennale. I met him at the Biennale. And we were talking, like, he lived in London, and, the difference is how he's in London, how he's in Vienna. And he was saying that it's very expensive to live in London. And it's true, it's crazy expensive to live in London. And public transportation is very expensive. The same card that we pay, the annual Wiener Linien card that we pay here, around 365 euro per year.
Yeah.
The same thing there is 2,500 pounds per year.
For 1 year?
For 1 year.
What the hell?
Crazy expensive.
Did somebody come and carry you out of your house and take you to your place on their back? Like, what the hell? That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
You could buy a car.
Yeah. I have a friend who lives in London, and he's been doing the job that he's doing for 3 years. This is his third year, and he's gone to the office. He went to the office only once. He only works from home because of the public transportation being so expensive.
Wow. Yeah.
It's when I was telling him how much we pay here for rent and like what is a normal rent, and he said, when I told him what I pay for the rent, he said, "Do you live in the city?" I said, "Yes, I live in the city, and I can take the tram to go to work."
Yeah.
No way. I was extremely surprised.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much the same also in the US. If you want to live in downtown, take Chicago, LA, New York. I don't know about Boston, but big cities, it's such a big difference from Europe in general, but especially from Vienna, because I heard that Berlin has gone crazy too with the rent.
Yeah, I've heard. Maybe, I don't know. In San Antonio, it's not so bad. I still have a house in San Antonio. I rent it out, and the rent, it's a 3-bedroom house with a garage, a backyard, front yard. I don't know square meters of it, but square feet maybe. It's a good sized house for a family. It's really great. And I rent it out to a family, and they pay like, I think $1,200 a month for the rent.
That's not a lot for a house.
For a house? No. I mean, you think of getting a flat here in Vienna, if you have $1,200 per month to pay just for the rent, not even the electricity and stuff like that. Yeah, you could find a good size flat, but it's still not a fucking house.
No, that's true.
And I really miss having a house. I love living in the city.
Yeah.
But man, I really miss having a garage. I really miss a garage. It's like the one thing it's like my one goal to have while living here in Austria is to have a house with a garage that I can park my car inside.
You want to turn it into a man cave?
Not a man cave. I just want to have a car I want to put my car in there and be able to work on it on my own, and I have to pay somebody to store it and like be in a public garage or something, and have my motorcycle. Like, I just want to have a garage, that's the only thing I'm really missing. And yeah, I haven't been able to attain it yet, I think.
But also the weather might be something that you're missing from Texas, or no? Yeah,
I mean, the weather's, I like summers in Vienna quite a bit. I like summers in Europe because it's not insanely hot like in the US, in Texas. And I do like the seasons. I do love seeing, even though I hate the winter in Vienna, I can barely make it out alive. When spring comes, it's such a relief. You feel it throughout the whole city, and it's a feeling that I've never experienced before, and it's a good feeling. Because in Texas, it's just, you don't really get that kind of change, So I don't say I miss Texas weather. I do miss Texas weather in winter. That's the only thing. I'm going back. That's why I go back during Christmas, because it's like it's a lot warmer there during Christmas, and here it's, at least I get like a few weeks that I'm not like freezing my ass off.
Do you take the dog with you when you go?
No. He usually stays with my parent-in-laws. Yeah, my in-laws.
You're so close to Austin there. Have you ever thought of doing an open mic there?
I mean, I haven't been back to the US since I started comedy. and I'm already planning that when I go back, I will do an open mic there. I know
You
it's
should start registering now if you're doing that, 'cause there's probably a waiting list.
that's what I'm thinking about. I mean, I still have almost 2 months before I'm there, so I've already looked up places. I've started like following comedians in San Antonio, and I've looked the podcasts that really got me into doing stand up. It's a live podcast, and they're having it while I'm there, but they're having it in an arena. Like it's not like in a room. It's like a huge 1,500 seated arena. And I thought about buying tickets, but then I was like, actually, I don't want to. I want to perform. I don't want to buy tickets. So I had to find out how that works. If I could just sign up as a comedian and just wait outside and hope that I get called, and see. But they're doing 2 dates there. But I'm planning to do at least one in San Antonio. I haven't found the right spot yet. I don't know where, but I'm planning to do at least one in San Antonio. And if I could do more, it's great. But going there, it's. I also meet with a lot of artists there because I have an art crew there. It's called the Blue Dozen Collective, and amazing artists, street artists, And every time I go back, it's great because I tell them I'm coming, and they always prepare like a wall that we can all paint, So I have that, and then to do stand up is a new thing, and I also want to spend time with my family, so I need to structure it in a way that like I'm not taking away too much time from family time, because that's really important for me, especially not being there so long, so often. When I see my family, I just want to hang out with them the whole time. Go shopping, just go to Walmart, and just fucking. It's so stupid.
Go to the mall.
Yeah, just go to the mall. Just be like consume, like just really. I come back with like full suitcases full of like flaming hot Cheetos and like new Levi jeans. I'm just like, aha, I did it. I really, I just love going there and just being with my family, and I paint I'll spend one day painting. I'll spend a few days maybe doing comedy this time, because that's something that they can also come and enjoy. We'll see.
But you got our friend Gus Horn was telling me about how he went to the Comedy Mothership and he met Joe Rogan and all those guys. You should try the Comedy Mothership. Yeah,
the Comedy Mothership is where they typically host this podcast I listen to. It's called Kill Tony. And they do it there at the Comedy Mothership.
Tony
Hedgecliffe. Hedgecliffe. And I'm planning to go there. I really want to see the Comedy Mothership. I think that they're having shows all the time. It's weird going when you go back during Christmas and New Year's time. There are a lot of dates that are not going to be available. So, but I'm going to try to go see at least one or two shows there. It was the same when I went to Barcelona this summer. I went with my wife, and we were there for 5 days. 5 days. We were there for 5 days for a holiday, for vacation. And 4 days I did open mics. And then I
was like, that's our vacation.
Yeah, I was like, hey, every night. I'm like, come on, one night we'll just not do it. I won't do it. And she was really cool. She let me do it. And like, I really, I got into that scene. I was able to fill out my jokes with a whole new audience. And it felt so awesome. It was really cool. And I'm looking to do that same thing in the US, because that's why I kind of keep my material more focused on my personal life and my relationship, because I think about translating that to other locations, For example, I can't do like a whole bit about Texas in Texas, because it's not going to be as funny as it is in Vienna. So,
but is the Spanish audience better than the Austrian audience? Probably yes.
In Spain?
Yeah, in Barcelona.
In Barcelona, it was great. I think I had some really great experiences there. I even came up with a new bit while I was there. It was amazing. It was really, it was the first time I had traveled somewhere, did stand up in a new place, and came up with a new bit.
What was the bit?
It was a bit about going to the beach in Barcelona and meeting this old man, and trying to help him because he looked like he was trying to get up. And I and I don't know Spanish. And this is basically, the bit was about me like miscommunicating with him because I want to help him, and he obviously needed help and nobody was going to help him. And I walked up to him and just spoke really bad Spanish to him, and it was really awkward and confusing. And it was a true story that actually happened. And then I went up on stage like the next night, or I think it might have been that night. I can't remember if it was that night. It was at least that night or the next night. And did it, and it killed in Barcelona. It did so good. And it was great.
Probably they relate to it.
Yeah.
Probably know how people are.
Yeah.
What was this?
And I took that bit back here to Vienna, and I tried it, and it did well. And then since then, I built onto that bit a little bit more, and I kind of keep it in one of the good bits that I have, basically, because it's fun.
But are you like, you walking on the street and you have an idea and just stop and you write it on your notes when you have something new in your mind?
Yeah, basically, it's exactly that. It's if a premise comes to mind, I'll kind of write the premise down. So as a premise, I mean like
the concept, something.
The concept, yeah. Like, so I have, I can look right now on one that I kind of wrote down recently. I'm still trying to work on, because I have like a whole list of like premises. And like shy bladder. Do you know what a shy bladder is?
No.
Okay, so I have a shy bladder, and basically it means like when I'm in a public restroom and I go to the urinal and I go to pee, if somebody comes in right after me and then goes to the urinal next to me and goes to try to pee, I can't pee. I can't. Like, I don't know. It's like, they call it shy bladder. Like, I just can't pee because I get too much in my head about it. And I start thinking like, oh my God, like I'm not peeing. I should pee. And this guy's standing next to me, and he probably, maybe he notices I'm not peeing. I'm just standing here looking at my dick. And it's a premise. I don't know. I haven't wrote a bit about it, but it's a true thing. And sometimes I'll just zip up my pants and I'll just walk out. I'll wash my hands and I'll leave. And then I'll come back 5 minutes later and pee.
Hopefully left.
Yeah, and exactly. And then hopefully nobody else shows up. That's the thing. And it's a problem I've had for such a long time. I don't know why I have it, but it's just something that I've always dealt with, and it's so stupid. The only thing that gets me over the shy bladder is like when I'm really drunk, you know? If I'm drunk, I don't care. I'll pee on your face. I don't care. Doesn't matter. But shy bladder is just such a stupid thing that I have, and I can't get over it. I just can't. And it's a premise. I wrote it down, and I will dive into that later, but I wrote it down just like, this is something maybe for the future, or maybe I can connect it to another bit. But yeah,
I hate when there was once when I was in a pub with a few friends, and I go to the toilet. Mm-hmm. And then once I'm done, I go out and sit in the bathroom area where I wash hands, and I see a friend of mine that we were sitting on a table together. He also was going to go in the toilet after me. Mm-hmm. And I was, oh, fuck no, I have to wash my hands.
You have shy hands.
Yeah, I have shy hands. Because if no one was there, I would have just
walked out. There. Yeah. Remind me not to shake your hand anymore. Yeah, I mean, it's just stuff like that. It kind of comes to mind, or when something out of the ordinary happens, I always try to I write it down, and sometimes it's not automatic that it's a joke. Yeah, but I know it's something there, and I write it, and later I try to work on it a little bit more. I also sit down with other comedians every like once a month, and we sit down and I tell them my premises.
Who do you meet with?
Just a few comedians, like Homer's one of them. I meet with Homer, and some other local ones. It's like a small group that we meet here in our studio and just kind of hang out and talk about it, and when people have time, and that helps. You know, it helps to kind of work out bits and kind of see things in a different angle, you know. It's not with every bit, but at least if the premise is good enough and I hear from them that the premise is good, then I continue to work on it, you know. I just that's a good thing about comedy. It's just so much fun because you're always building on something. It's like, how do I make something from this
Yeah.
situation that I find so awkward and weird, you know.
And it's never over. It can always get funnier and funnier and funnier. It's not.
You can always add to it,
You
yeah.
reach a point and you say, I'm done. This is. Then you think about it. You can always make it funnier and funnier, or evolve in more bits. And
Yeah, because sometimes you find you have something like a comparison that comes to mind, and you write it down because it's something that's strange to you, but it has no place anywhere. It's just something you observed, and then maybe that finds a home inside of a little bit somewhere. It's just how that happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I have this whole bit about my wife and I getting in a fight, and then I had this other time where she actually, like she farted on me when we were spooning on the couch, and that was such a funny premise on itself, you know, like such a funny joke, but I didn't have any word, like I didn't know what to do with it, and then I was like, this doesn't have to be by itself. I can put it now in this argument joke, and I put it in there, and it makes that joke such a nice, well-formed joke that it kind of ends with that whole, and like that bit ends with the bit in a way,
Yeah.
and yeah,
but it takes a lot of time to really go somewhere safe with stand-up comedy. It's every successful stand-up comedian that we know now, it's not that they started like that. I think that there's a monologue of Louis C.K. at Saturday Night Live a few years ago. He's like, I've been doing comedy for 35 years and it's been going great for 5.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember that piece.
No, but that sounds like something you would say.
Yeah, it's very relatable and it makes sense. You start and all the greats, the greatest stand-up comedians that we know now, they've been struggling for, I don't know, for years and years and years. Because in the beginning, I believe it feels like, oh, I'm almost there. But it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, of course.
Especially if you have to do another job to pay the bills and you can't focus 100% on doing stand-up comedy. And also in an environment like Austria, who's not very famous for humor, and wouldn't pay a lot of money for humor, it's hard to turn it into a full-time job. But it's not impossible. And on the other hand, I think that it's good that you have created this community of stand-up comedians, and it seems almost revolutionary because I don't know that existed before something like this. And think about it in the longer and wider terms, it could be the community of English-speaking stand-up comedians in Europe. Doesn't have to be only, I mean, except the UK. Yeah, it doesn't have to be only in Vienna. Yeah. You can create a larger community that just if you hang on to that a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's something about that community that kind of kept me into the comedy, because I've been now 9 years in Vienna. I've been doing art in Vienna for 9 years, and never did I find the art community as welcoming and opening and as the comedian community. We're both doing art. I find similarities all the time. I can go on and on about how similar everything is. But what the difference is, and the main difference, is that painters, artists, street artists, graffiti artists, whatever, it's hard to form a community with that because everybody's doing their own thing. And with comedians,
you can do your own thing together.
We could do our own thing together, and we all support each other, and we want to see each other succeed. And sometimes we want to see each other succeed that we hate that they're succeeding. You know, we're just like, God damn, you're doing so good. Why don't you but I think it's the better that we all do, the better it is for the community, you know? And I think we all help each other out. We're all there for each other. I think it's something that I wasn't able to find in the art community. It's something that I was looking for so long since I moved here. And I finally found it, but in a different way, you know. And I had that in San Antonio. In Texas, I had this art community that was like the comedy community here, where we would get together at least every 2 months, and we would all paint together, hang out together, and drink together, and support each other, you know. And I never was able to find that in Vienna. I even tried to start that, you know. I started that in San Antonio, honestly. Like I wanted to do art.
Yeah.
And I started an art show called the Art Slam, And I invited all the artists that I knew to go paint, and it just grew and grew and grew. And we would paint live in front of people every 2 months. We'd have live DJs, and we would sell the art when we were done. People would bid on the art while we're painting it.
Wow.
It was such a fun. I did that for 9 years in San Antonio. And then when I moved here, I mean, that's how I knew the artist from here, from Vienna, because I flew him into San Antonio to participate in the show.
Yeah.
So that's my connection to Vienna, basically. And then when I came here, I was like, maybe I'll try that here. Maybe I'll try to do this art slam here. It just never took off. You know, like I did 1 or 2 of them. I never found the right venue, and it was so hard to explain it to the artist, like what I'm trying to do. And it just didn't feel like it just wasn't the right place for it, I guess, you know. Like, I don't know if Vienna was ready for that kind of artist, supporting artist type of community, you know.
But maybe it's also that the people are not used to work in community here. Maybe it's also a matter of culture.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, exactly.
Are only taught to do their work individually.
Maybe it's just, it could be just because it was in San Antonio and they were kind of starving for that kind of camaraderie, that kind of community. I think Austin's also is really big for art also, knowing because a lot of my crewmates are in Austin, and they do also meetups there. So I think it depends on the city, and depends on the people there and who's trying to do it. But yeah, I was lucky that I found the comedy community to kind of calm me down a little bit, because I was kind of struggling with the art a little bit. Not struggling as far as money wise, but struggling with like my passion to continue it, you know. It just felt, when you go into depression with art, I'm just sitting in the studio trying to figure out, what am I doing? What am I going to do next? People are bored with this character or that kind of painting or that kind of stuff. Where do I progress from here? You know, and I have a few artists in Vienna that I can talk to about it, like 1 or 2 that I can really sit down and like, they understand what I'm going through, and we could talk about it. And that's really all you really need as far as that goes. But in the comedy scene, it's just so much more. Everybody knows. We know the feeling of doing great on stage. We know the feeling of totally bombing on stage. You know, the feeling of just working on stuff, and we're also so open about it, you know. And
it's also like because you are all coming from different countries. It's not Austria.
I think that's the main thing about
also
the comedy scene.
The same process, pretty much, coming here, not knowing anyone.
Exactly. I think that's what really brings that English comedy scene together a lot tighter. And I think, that's the main difference with that. Just once you find that's good advice for anybody who's like moving to a new place and they don't feel like they're fitting in. Just to find your community, you know. There's a community for everybody out there, and once you find that community, it doesn't have to be comedy. It could be gaming. If you're a big gamer, it could be sewing or walking dogs. I don't know. You find your community, and then you feel like you're part of something again.
Yeah,
you know?
that was. You just described it. You just described the main reason why I started with the international. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people like me, like you, come here with different talents, trying to do something, or they want to do something, but they don't have anyone to talk with. Mm-hmm. And same like you, I want to talk with people, I want to hang out with people, talk about movies and talk about TV, and also about comedy. And that's why I also like to hang out at the comedy pub sometimes, because I also like stand-up comedy. And so I thought, all right, then since it's needed, let's do it. Let's do the international. Let's see. What is the name of your Instagram where we can check your art? Because it's in the description.
Okay. My art is Deadbeat Hero.
Deadbeat Hero.
Deadbeat Hero, yeah.
Why?
Deadbeat Hero was a character that I created in high school. It was when I first started to do illustrating, when I first realized I wanted to do art, I created a comic book. and I did my own
comic book.
Well, I made my own little comic book, and I was trying to sell it, and I was like pushing it. For a short time in Texas, I was working in a comic book company, like a small company in Texas called Fun Core Comics, and the artist that was doing the comics there was a great artist, super good, still good, and
All handmade.
All handmade, yeah.
Wow.
And so like I went into the company as a writer, and so I was writing comics, and I was writing their comics, and they were drawing it, and it was all cool, and as I was like 19 at the time, and then I decided I wanted to do my own comic so bad, so I tried it. I tried drawing it, and I wrote this whole story, and I named the comic Deadbeat Hero. Is based on a comic book character, like a character that I created that is a skateboarding superhero, basically. So just imagine a skateboarder who doesn't want to have the responsibilities of having superpowers, but he has superpowers. So he's kind of
superpowers.
Just being really badass at skateboarding and like being able to like
bad version of Tony Hawk.
Yeah, basically. No, his power was basically the normal superhero powers. I don't think I got to the point where he really realized all of his powers at that time when I started to write it. But in the story, which has nothing to do with my life, by the way, but it was just, I was a skateboarder, but his father in the story was a superhero, a well-known superhero, like Superman's type superhero, but he never had time for his son because he was such a busy guy.
Being a superhero.
And then his son his power started to manifest as he got in his teenage years, but he didn't want to use them because he didn't want to be like his father, basically.
But it's a great story.
Yeah, it was a great story, but I did one issue, and then I started to do the art slam. So I started to get more into the art community and started focusing on more like being an artist, and I kept the name Deadbeat Hero as myself, and then I just put the comic to the side. So
did you ever publish any of it?
No, I made one self-published, and I only sold it in Texas. I did little like what are they like? It's A4, like A5 size comics, and I would go to the local record stores and put them there to sell, and so they were selling for $2. I would get $1 for every one that sold or something. And I did that one issue, and then I never continued it actually. But yeah, who knows? Maybe in the future I'll do it again.
Go back to it. It's a really great story, and
it's a great story
that can sell as well.
It could be, yeah. But also there's a new series out called Invincible, which kind of deals with the same thing now. I mean, it was only a matter of time that kind of dynamic.
Invincible with the family of superheroes?
No, that's the Incredibles. The Invincible is about this kid his father's a Superman superhero, and his powers start to come. His father's really proud of him and starts to teach him, but then it turns out that his father's not exactly what he thinks he is, and it's a really great comic, and now it's an animated series on Amazon Prime. But so yeah, not that my stories are different, obviously, but it's not. It's kind of in the same vein. And if I started to do it now, people are like, "Oh, you just got the idea from Invincible." So, I think my time for that has already passed, but I still keep the name as my artist name.
I wouldn't care much about what people are gonna say if you stole it or not, the idea, because first of all, half of what we see is already more than half of what we see
it's all already been done.
All looks similar.
Yeah.
You mentioned Amazon Prime. Check Amazon Prime. Check Netflix. You've seen 90% of things before.
Yeah.
And that's not the point of entertainment.
That's true.
You just go there. You shut your brain, and you want to be entertained, and you don't want to focus to find the mistakes of if you've seen this before or not. If you've seen this before and you don't like it, just shut it down and go do something else. But no one will ever care. And with Marvel starving for ideas, you see what they're doing. They're just repeating themselves. They open these multiverses now, and that's the only reason they open it. It's to develop more stories because it's all done. It's all over. There's nothing new to do anymore. So what can we do? Let's open the multiverse and go back in time and bring everyone back to life so we can have more stories. And then the DC is doing pretty much the same. The new Flash movie is also with going back in time and trying to save. It was a horrible movie, by the way. I don't know if you watched it.
I did see it. I saw it. I didn't think it was so bad, but I just didn't. I don't know what they're gonna. I'm really excited with that because now James Gunn is doing all the DC stuff, and I think James Gunn is a great director. He did the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. He did all that stuff, which are, in my opinion, the best Marvel movies.
That's what a lot of people say. I didn't watch it yet.
No, I mean, he did the best
The
ones.
third one, right?
He did all three of them.
Yeah, but the third one they say was the best.
I liked all three of them. I mean, the third one is the newest one. It's really has some great scenes in it. It's a touching story. The first one, I think, is my favorite one. The first one's the greatest one, in my opinion.
I like the soundtrack.
Yeah, he's great about that. James Gunn is really, and now he's going to be doing this. He's controlling all of DC cinema now, starting this now. Like after Flash was like the last of the old DC, and that was kind of the reboot. That now James Gunn can do whatever the hell he wants with DC and really do what he wants.
You get so much power.
He just did really great films. I don't know. I guess I don't know. He also did some DC stuff already. He did Suicide Squad, the second one.
Yeah,
not the first one. And he did a great HBO Max series called Peacemaker with John Cena, and that's a great series. If you've never seen it,
great.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. It's really well written. It's John. It actually made me like John Cena. Like before, I didn't really like John. I didn't really care for him. But after seeing that, I was like, man, he's really pretty funny and a good actor. And it's all because of James Gunn, I think. So yeah, you don't know.
You know, there always has always been something about the DC characters. They're always like second coming after the Marvel superheroes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Batman.
Except Batman, yeah.
Everyone loves Batman.
Yeah, but I agree with you too. But I think DC has a lot of potential when they step away from the main three. Is when they step away from Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, and then they focus more on the side characters, like Peacemaker is a DC character, and also for a while DC Comics kind of had a separate comic company called Vertigo Comics, and there they made a bunch of really great stories that weren't in line with the main DC universe, and just some great storytelling. It was a lot of those really got me into comics in the first place. And if they focus more on that, because they have so much good material there.
That's the opposite with Marvel. If when Marvel focuses on supporting characters, it's shit. Unless Marvel focuses on Spider-Man, Iron Man, and what else? I don't know. All of these two probably. And this is mainly because Spider-Man is a great character in itself. My favorite Marvel character is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And Iron Man because it's Robert Downey Jr. playing it.
Yeah.
I think that if someone else was playing
it would be the same.
It wouldn't be so great.
But the Guardians of the Galaxy were all second characters. Like nobody knew who Star-Lord was or Rocket Raccoon.
Let's see.
Yeah, nobody knew who those characters were before. And now everybody knows them because of those movies, and it's great. So they did do that, and I think now they have to more rely on these secondary characters because now the old characters are gone, so now they have to bring in new characters, and they have to make them interesting and entertaining. I haven't been super happy with the new stuff they did, but it was the last one I saw.
This is She-Hulk was horrible.
I liked She-Hulk a little bit. I like the actress. I thought she was good. I didn't like Secret Invasion was horrible. That was just a big mistake. That was with Samuel L. Jackson. But
how can that guy play the same fucking character all his life in every fucking movie?
He does it.
But the same person.
But the Loki series is really good.
Oh yeah,
I like that. Yeah. So now it's on the second season.
Yeah, I watched the posters. I looked at the posters all over.
It's good. They do really good with that story, and it's really what I love about like Marvel storytelling is when they kind of take you out of this universe in a way, like the Earth, and they kind of put you in another place, and it's like it's so weird and interesting and fun. It's cool. It's like what they did with the Thor movies too, like the newer Thor. You see the first 2 or 3 Thors is like, what the fuck? And then you see like the newer ones are like, okay, this is more awesome. But yeah.
I never really got into Doctor Strange a lot.
Yeah, but the new Doctor Strange is great.
What's new with what's the new movies?
The Multiverse of Madness.
Oh wow.
You didn't like it?
I haven't seen it but it's this multiverse thing that I'm not liking anymore, and that's why they lost me. A lot of people are complaining that about Marvel recently, and also Marvel statistic has fallen a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it was bound to happen. It was going to happen anyway. Everybody knew it was going to happen. I'm still writing it because I like when they do some twists, and of course when they bring in stuff that I know from, because I grew up with comics, you know.
But No Way Home was so great that it's like it set the bar, and nothing else could be that bad, that good.
Yeah. But DC, not DC, what the fuck? Doctor Strange, the new one. Some people don't like it. Some people love it. I'm the one who loves it because the guy who directed that movie specifically was Sam Raimi, who did
Spider-Man.
Did Spider-Man. He did Evil Dead. He did such great films, you know, and like he did Drag Me to Hell. He did like horror movies, you know? Yeah. And this Doctor Strange movie is like a horror movie. It's like, it's great. There's some parts that, you know, not the best, but when I watched the movie from beginning to end, I'm like, this is just such a great Sam Raimi movie. It's like, you see how much he has progressed as a director. You see the original Spider-Man, then you see this Doctor Strange, and you're like, wow, he really stepped it up a lot. And what they were able to do with Doctor Strange in that film, I loved it. And I mean, I saw it in theaters, and I was like so happy I saw it in theaters. It was great.
Do you watch other movies outside the comics?
Oh, of course. I like.
Have you watched anything recently in the theaters?
In theaters, I don't remember the last movie I thought.
You watched the Scorsese movie, the new one, Killers of the Flower Moon?
No, I didn't see that one. No.
If you want to watch that, it's 3 hours and a half.
Okay, yeah, that might be too. I'll watch it in breaks. No, I watch a lot of the other stuff. I also watch a lot of TV shows and stuff. I'm a big pop culture kind of follower.
What are you watching right now?
Right now, I mean, I just finished Bodies on Netflix, which is also, I realized, was based on a comic. I didn't realize until I saw the credits. It's a great movie, a great series. And before that, I saw Fall of the House of Usher. Also Netflix, and that was great. And now I'm watching Loki and Gen V, which is the spin-off from The Boys, which is if you have never seen The Boys, it's a great.
No,
it's based on a comic book. Also, The Boys was a Warren Ellis comic that I used to love when I was younger, and I thought they were going to do a movie, but they ended up doing a TV show, which is great because they really expanded it a lot. And it's a really hardcore take on superheroes. Like if superheroes were real in a way, and they were just fucking egotistical assholes who can get away with anything they want, you know. And the
like
boy,
Hancock.
Kind of, yeah, but it's more self-realized, you know, and like they know that what they're doing. And the boys are kind of like these group of guys that kind of been fucked over by the superheroes in one way or another. Like the main guy that you follow, his girlfriend was killed by a superhero because he was standing on the street kissing her, and like a superhero as fast as a flash ran through her body right when he was holding her, and stuff like that happens, and you see it, and it's gruesome, and it's fucking hardcore. And they formed this group of like, somebody has to check these guys, somebody has to stop these superheroes somehow, and that's what The Boys is about basically. And it's great. It's a really great. And then Gen V is a spin-off, and it's kind of like Professor Xavier's school, where you have like this college of superheroes and these kids that are dealing with their powers in a little bit, and shit's going on. So it's also really interesting. So,
talking about this Xavier, Logan is returning to Deadpool 3. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah. I think that's going to be interesting also.
When is it coming out?
This next year.
Next year?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Already a year that they announced it.
Yeah. They have to tease it out so far out. But also there was the writer strike. So.
Oh, right.
So I think that slowed down a lot of the stuff. Also, the new Ghostbusters was supposed to come out December, and now they pushed it back to 2024. So
yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah. All right. It was great talking to you.
You also, man. It was great.
If people want to hear your jokes, where do they can do so? The Comedy Pub mainly?
Yeah, Comedy Pub on Saturday at 9 o'clock. I host a show with Jacob Bliss, and that's the Bomb Squad. It's a free show. They can come every Saturday at 9. And
Jacob is the guy that does the podcast?
No, Jacob Bliss, he's not doing a podcast. He's my better half. He's the other part of Bomb Squad. I don't think he's doing a podcast. If he is doing a podcast, he hasn't told me. But he's also an American comedian, and I met him in the scene fairly quickly after moving here, and then I think we both just have this great chemistry together. So we host a show together, and I'm doing often open mics, but I usually post everything on my Instagram. So Tito Perez official, like everything is there.
Why official? You get competition with the same name?
If I type in Tito Perez, it wouldn't work. If somebody already took that one. So I just put it Tito Perez official, because Tito Perez official. I thought it was, it's official. It's mine. I don't know. It's just, what else? It's hard to come up with names for Instagram or social media anymore. Everything's been taken.
Your first name, last name is never enough.
No. I had to tell, I was lucky to get Deadbeat Hero when I got it when Instagram first started. So
Deadbeat Hero has a lot of followers.
Yeah. I've had it for many, many years. That's why I've built it from Texas coming here. So yeah.
Well, great talking to you, man.
You also, man. Thanks for taking the time to sit down and come.
We are at your studio today.
Yeah, thanks for coming to the studio to do it and save me the trip.
Well, check him out, and the Deadbeat Hero is on the description. You can also check Tito Perez official on Instagram, and he's a very funny guy. You should check him out. The Comedy Pub, most probably, where he performs most often. Mm-hmm. And if you ever bump into one of his street arts, just take a picture and tag him on the Deadbeat. Well, bye everyone.
See you. Bye.